Maschine Masters. My name is MGTheFuture. Thank you for joining us today. Today's particular tutorial is going to be a hybrid, kind of. I'm going to give you some information on how to make bounce type beats. Bounce type beats, of course, we most recognize through the contributions of the producer Mannie Fresh. Mannie Fresh, of course, produced a lot of the early Hot Boys, Cash Money catalog, and he was also part of the group Big Timers. He's been producing for a very long time, and I kind of wanted to touch on that because there seems to be a wave or energy going in that direction, at least from mainstream music, right? Bounce music, of course, comes from a New Orleans or subgenre of Dirty South music. Of course, is made popular by Mannie Fresh, Birdman, Beats by the Pound, Master P even. So much so, there's a song on the radio right now by G-Eazy called No Limit. And of course, that's paying homage to Master P. This particular track was produced by Boi-1da and Alan. So I'm going to kind of dissect that a little bit to give you guys some modern context of bounce beats. But the most important thing, I think, when we talk about Mannie Fresh and that style of music was their sound selection. You'll notice he has a lot of breakdowns, he has a lot of rolls, he has a lot of flams. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on. However, I don't think that style of music works with today's drums. Trust me, I've tried it. But anyway, if you look here on Wikipedia, you'll see his instruments, and they pretty much give us a brick wall there. But I'm here to tell you, I know exactly what he is using. I knew exactly what Timbaland was using. And I know the company that made what they were using at least when they started their careers, has fed tons of families, because you're going to hear their drum sounds all over the place in old 90s and early 2000 records. And you'll see them recycled 30 bits distorted later in 20,000 different drum kits. But all that comes from the Emu Mofat. Nowadays, you can get it for the low in the rack mount. I'm on these eBays and Reverb.coms if you wish. They're even selling brand new LCD screens for it to kind of give you more life. So definitely check that out. Speaking of those sounds, I was lucky enough to have a friend who was patient enough to convert his to WAV format before he sold it. And if you go to level 3 folder, which I guess is the banks on those machines, it has all the single shots from it. So that's where I drew my inspiration from for this kit. And there's tons of snares. So much so, I created a segment of this beat just to show you. And you're gonna hear these processed differently in Timbo's productions. You got the Leah stuff. You got those hard 808s that he uses. You got the Try Again. Everything is here. And even the Mannie Fresh snare rolls he was doing when he was producing for T.I. in them. That's the throwback kit. That's the OG of all the new Dirty South drum kits, for lack of better words. But anyway, let's get back to this G-Eazy No Limit track. I'm gonna play you the pattern I got, and what I want you guys to take away from this is when you try to recreate a bounce beat, pay very close attention to the arrangement of your references. In this particular track, Boi-1da and them, I believe, reference Lil Wayne Hot Boys, because the tempo is exactly the same, the drum structure is really similar, and the breakdown is nearly identical. So let me play the drums for you. And these are all Mofat sounds, so they will sound kind of dated. At the end, if we do pattern recognition, in a lot of those early 90s songs, it's usually like 2 bars of A, 2 bars of B, A, B, or A, B, A, C. In this case, it's all A, B. Just think about that when you're creating your different blocks or your loops or however your arrangement's going to be. There's always going to be a different block to kind of switch it up. In Mannie Fresh's case, though, however, he'll change the whole song around and pick a whole nother set of drums for his breakdown, so keep an ear open for that. And speaking of keeping an ear open, what I want to show you is a VST by Accusonus called Regroove Pro. It's a type of alien technology. No, I'm serious. And the best way I can describe it to you guys is that it's Melodyne for drums. And the reason why I want to use this is because to do bounce music or anything Mannie Fresh, you're definitely going to want to reference. But when you reference this stuff, because it's so percussion heavy and in double time and so fast, you're not going to catch all the nuances of what he's doing as far as drum programming. So this is the perfect thing to use. So what I'm going to do is, just like Boi-1da and them, I'm going to load a reference of a Mannie Fresh track, in particular Lil Wayne's Hot Boys. So this is the loop of Hot Boys broken down into its individual elements. I actually want it to be broken down further because there's so many percussions in here. So under analysis, I'm going to increase the layers to 6. All right, now we got 6 layers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off a few of them so we don't have no beef with the YouTube streets, and just let you hear what this is. So right now it's really slow, and just like Serato and similar plugins, we can half time it, because apparently he had to have programmed this in double time, Mannie Fresh himself. So I want to half it, I want to sync it up with my project. So as you can see, it's 86 beats per minute when we half time it. That's exactly the same range that this G-Eazy track is in. But when you look at these elements, you get a better idea visually of what the pattern should be. So if you're good at pattern recognition, you can start your patterns and experiment with some of these. For instance, if you want the percussion line where there's the open hats and the voice, you can see it now. It's a lot easier than so-called playing by ear. But more importantly, what I want to capture is that snare pattern, because it has a nice little fill at the end that's hard for me to catch just by hearing it. So check it out. That fill at the end is what's killing me. There we go. I got it. And the only reason I can get that so fast is because I can just hear it. You could filter drum elements too, but that would take forever and a day to get the perfect multiband frequency to isolate. So this kind of plugin serves a lot of different purposes, but for drum isolation, to be able to train your ears better, or if you just want to mess around and remix these different things by doing different loop regions, is really dope, really useful. But anyway, once you get some elements you like from your reference, any of the Mannie Fresh's deep catalog, you can move forward and kind of build around it. The last thing I want to touch on though is going back to the G-Eazy track, was the music theory behind it. I'm going to isolate the sounds of this particular track. This is a rough interpolation of it. I'm using E B minor, and I caught a pattern from it that was very reminiscent of DJ Mustard, and I'll explain why. So here's what it sounds like. And this is just a regular piano sound from Serum, but I'm adding a filter, automated filter to it to kind of give it that ambience. So that's the instrumentation that I gathered from that particular track. But the music theory aspect I want to show you, I pointed it out in my DJ Mustard tutorial too, and that's how it stands out like a sore thumb to me. I'm going to go into my piano roll. In FL Studio, I do have scale highlight on, which is going to be under helpers, scale highlighting, and I have it on E flat minor. Now, this particular way of melody building is really convenient, because no matter what you do in these particular keys within a given scale, it's always going to fit between chords, no matter what the chords are. And that's why it's so lovely. But basically what they're doing is they're taking the root note and they're starting that or including that in their melody. Now, the pattern recognition, what I want you guys to pay attention to, especially those of you who use piano roll, is that you want to look for the cluster of keys that are next to each other. So in scale highlight, they're going to be white. So it's this and this, and then below the root, this and this. And what happens is when you start your melody with any of these, if you start at the top of this one, you go to the bottom of this one, or vice versa. If you go to the top of this one, you go to the bottom of this one. You just look at them in clusters. And I'll build it up for you so you can get a better idea of what I'm talking about. And we can flip that too. We can do it the other way. I'm gonna go low here, I'm gonna go high here. There's infinite ways to do it. You don't even have to start high, you can start low. Or something like this. The possibilities are endless, but basically you have your given scale and you're building the melody out of 3 to 5 keys. And those 3 to 5 keys are going to be based on the root note, the 2 keys that are clustered above it, and the 2 keys that are clustered below it. And as I said in that DJ Mustard tutorial, songs like I Got 5 on it from back in the day are doing the same exact thing. So if you guys know what that mode is called, or what the music theory behind why melodies follow that pattern in so many songs, probably every song that I've ever analyzed on this channel, let me know. I think there's some kind of Atlantic Mike Karen conspiracy going on behind that. But anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this format of the tutorial. I wanted to give you more concepts and context than just remaking someone's beat. And hopefully that'll help you if you're going after the bounce type style, or maybe you're from Louisiana and you're watching this and you want to get into production so it's right at home for you. Another side note of this particular tutorial, I remember about 4 to 5 years ago, I have a producer friend who was signed to Young Money, and what he was telling me was that the A&Rs and the people who were submitting records to directly, they were asking for bounce tracks for Nicki Minaj, Lil Wayne, and Birdman. But of course, there was some kind of issue that developed between Wayne and Birdman since then. So I find it ironic today that this style is finally coming on radio or on albums and releases, and there's plenty more coming because that particular producer has placed some. But anyway, it took 4 years for that style to manifest. So it's going to stick around for a little while, but isn't it ironic that it was intended to come back for the Young Money wave and Nicki Minaj, but it ends up being Cardi B instead? Yeah, I know, it's messy. But thank you guys for joining us today. I'm MGTheFuture. If you want to get in contact with us directly on social media, I'm at MGTheFuture on Twitter and Instagram. Also be sure to follow at Maschine Masters. Appreciate you guys' time. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, peace.